Jesus, all the way. I'll forever trust in you. Jesus all the way. JC24 7.
I've often been told that marriage can be defined or can be described as buying something on credit. You see it, you like it, you take it home, and then you pay for it later. Maybe right now some of you are paying for it. But if you are not yet married, this series is customized with you in mind. We continue our discussion on finding the right one, and this one is entitled The Man the Woman is Looking For, Part 2. We have invited in set our resident pastor, Pastor Roger Morris. You look so bright on set today. We will head right into our discussion on men versus women. Giselle, I think I want to start with you. In what ways do women differ from men?
One way is that women are more emotional and men rational when it comes to decision making, right? Men know they have to do something and to make a decision or whatever, they go straight to it and select and that's it. Women now have to go here, there and everywhere, especially when it comes to shopping and everything like that. Right? And to get the best bargain and even to make decisions, they might, think more with their heart and, sympathy and everything like that comes into play and, when they have to make a decision.
You want to add to that? Differences?
I would like to say that women tend to be more detailed oriented. They spend a lot of time on specifics, and the details of a particular decision or a particular item than just what it is on the surface.
A lot of people tend to make mention that men, they just want solutions. I would like to just tweak that. It's not that they only love to make solutions and we women, we don't know how to. We love solutions, but we would love to understand the depth and the magnitude of the situation before we make a solution so that we know that the solution is best. So I think the difference between men and women is that we don't mind taking a little more time and exerting a little more patience to understand issues, whereas men, they just want to...
Why is that important to you, taking the time?
Because I would love to know that whatever I do, it's to the best of my ability. I'm not saying that men lack that, don't misquote me, but this is my way, my method of...
Okay, just a difference, I suppose.
Yes, it's a difference.
Pastor, speaking about difference, it was my friend Giselle, I almost forgot your name, sir, ma'am, not paying attention to details, right? She said that women are more emotional. Do you subscribe to that? And is it a fact? Or is it a lack?
It's a difference. And what we have to understand is that a lot of the things that we put as fact or lack are really differences that God has given to us. Like I use the Trinidad parlance for spite.
I hear you.
On purpose, because those differences are what He's going to use. In the case of a man and a woman coming together, the differences are what He's going to use to work His magic, if it were, so that they become one flesh. And what society has done is that we have put labels on these differences and we have the genders fighting against each other over differences that God would have made and the points that God wanted to use. One of the interesting things, as you asked the question just now, I heard my young friend said she wanted to tweak it. Now that is the epitome of a woman, to fix things, to tweak, and that kind of thing. And I shouldn't have a problem with that. That is her essence. And God would have given her that ability to do that. Whether men and women, I was pleasantly surprised recently. I was listening to the radio just before Mother's Day, and they were asking the question about the same emotional thing, and 58% of the respondents said that men are just as emotional as women. I was very surprised. And in truth and in fact, that could be so. It's just that the emotional side of a woman is seen.
That's right.
It's seen, and the emotional side of a man is not seen. So the thing that is seen is the thing that gets more prevalence.
That's right.
And more acknowledgement, that kind of thing.
And I suspect the emotional side not being seen as part of his being a man.
Right. Yes, that is how it
and the truth could be said of women as well.
And there is not anything, you see, God has given us differences, like I say, to enhance relationships.
Right.
The problem is, and I'm quoting Larry Crabb here in his book, Men and Women Differences. Larry Crabb says, the first thing that we have to understand is that men and women are equally fallen.
Okay.
So it's not that we fall and all you're right. You understand?
Say it again.
It's not that we fall and all you're right. Everybody, all of us have fallen, and sin would be manifested in a woman different than it would in a man. But it is differences that we are talking about. When the differences are used in a harmful way, that is when the problem comes.
All right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When the differences are used in a harmful way. So, for instance, let me give a difference that you know, I know all women, and then we grade the teacher. This thing to pursue women is a God-given thing. The thing that a man has in him to go after a woman is God-given. What Satan has done is mashed up his discretion. So he goes after everything. You understand? So God would have given him something and Satan would have messed it up. And what really upsets women is the Satan side that has him going after everything. And they put it under the umbrella of he's going after when there's a God-given thing.
All right. Speaking of which, do you or you have had some brothers, or you have some brothers, what do you consider to be man's basic needs or some of man's important needs? Because I'm sure you plan to get married one of these days, and you will have to meet some of those needs at least. Well, I won't put a time limit on it, but maybe you know something I don't know, sir.
One of the needs of a man, well, in terms of my experience from having brothers, is that men need to be respected and not downplayed or talked at. Sometimes women have an attitude that could be very distasteful and very overwhelming. Some women shout and quarrel, and sometimes they talk at men. And men don't like that. They don't like to feel as though their masculinity is being taken away from them or being trashed upon. A lot of men build themselves on their ego. And from time a woman attacks that, there's problems. You know? So that's one thing that I think.
Anything you want to add, Karina?
Men also need to feel a sense of belonging, as do women, right? A sense of belonging and acceptance. Because simple things you can look at in society, look at the gangs, right? They give the opportunity for a young male to feel a sense of belonging because he belongs to this gang and he has a support system. So they need support, acceptance, and belonging along with the right to feel respected. So I think those are like the basic needs of a man.
Kishi, you want to add to that?
I'd like to say something else. In a relationship setting,
right.
I also think men love to feel secure and privileged. Because no man wants to know that he's in a relationship with a woman and she's giving the same, she's endowing the same rights to somebody else. That creates a problem. Yes, some other male.
Okay.
In this day and age, male or female.
Okay.
Sad to say.
Yes, it's apt in today's.
So he wants, just like a woman, he wants to feel privileged and secure in that relationship. He doesn't want to have to wonder what if he is the special one, or if he's the only one, or if he's still the man in the relationship. So
one of the things I've learned by being a man is that men love to be affirmed, Pastor. Right? Giselle, do you think men are affirmed as much as they should be in society? We have a lot of things concerning Mother's Day, for instance. Father's Day, I'm not sure if it gets under the radar at all. Maybe I'm wrong. Are men affirmed in our society? Do you think?
I think you're right. Men are not affirmed as they should in society. And it comes from, again, the breakdown of the family structure in terms of the man being the head of the home and taking up his responsibilities. And so the media and different aspect, will target the men and say, well, they are not picking up the responsibility and then doing what is required. So they will bash the men and they will, highlight certain things and, but there are men who are taking up that responsibility and doing what they should, right? And it's good that you should affirm them and show them that they are needed and that they are, they are highlight the good ones so that the other men who are not following and doing what is correct, will see that, the way I'm going is not the correct way, but, I can actually go on that side, which is the right way, because there are others who are leading the way and doing what is correct.
And if I may reiterate, our society or legal system favors the woman in terms of rearing of children. So if there's a case where there's a separation, the child goes with the woman, but it does nothing, or it does not say that the man is not responsible. So in that case, you have more homes or single-parent homes that are being taken over by women. But perhaps there's a case that it might be so in some cases because the legal system favors the woman as opposed to the man. Pastor, you know?
I want to jump in on what you just asked there, and this is a sore point for me. I'll make no bones about it. I'll give you for instance. There was this time I went to this church, and I was attending the church for a while, and when Mother's Day came around, they had a real lovely program. I think they gave out some mugs with a little heart and that kind of thing on it, and they had the children present them to the mothers, and the mothers stood up and they got the mugs and that nice music and that kind of thing. Right. Father's Day came around, and they made all of us line up, and they gave us these little papers, little thing like a scroll with a pledge on it. that we will listen. I was in church and I was so upset. And that is what had happened. And I keep asking myself, what about those of us who are responsible? I didn't grow up with my father. He didn't make any significant contribution. And ever since I was a young man, I vowed that if and when I have a child or children, I would make sure that I don't do what he did. And I remember the first day that I was carrying my daughter to school. I was driving and crying because my father never carried me to school. You understand what I'm saying? So what about all those of us who are doing the positive things? And to answer your question, in terms of if we are affirmed enough, I don't think so. Right. And I think that is something that both church and society needs to look at in a very serious way. So
is all the negativity justified in some cases?
Well, I don't think, what I mean, we do stuff that would have brought people to a certain point. We can't fault people for having that negative outlook. Right. But I'm saying, how are you going to solve the problem by continually telling me I'm bad?
Okay, there you go.
You understand what I'm saying? So that is why I think we need to go.
When we come back, we look at the whole question of the head of the home through the eyes of the weaker sex. You're watching JC24/7. We're looking at finding the right woman. Of course, if you want to drop us a line, ask us a question, you can dial the numbers that appear on the screen or email us at jcministries@hotmail.com. We are looking at the man the woman is looking for within the series Finding the Right One. The Apostle Paul in Ephesians chapter 5 says, Karina, that the man or the husband is the head of the home. What does that mean to you?
When we look at the word head, right? The headedness or the headliness of the man, what it speaks about, right? It speaks about a certain order that things are to follow, right? Because nothing good can exist without order. So God in his wisdom simply put an order or stratification, not saying that the woman is supposed to be under the man or that she's a second-class citizen. But he established his order in that he gave the man responsibilities, and in order to fulfill his role, to have a successful relationship with a woman. So I think a man, as the head of the home, is supposed to have his responsibilities fulfilled, which is to provide for the needs of the children. Even though the woman could do it, he also has to be able to do it physically, emotionally, and he has to be provide for their spiritual needs also. That is what the Bible says about the priest, the man being the head of the home. So I think
you ladies want to challenge that or add to that?
I would just like to give an analogy as to how I think of it. When you look at the President of the United States and his chief of staff, that is what I would link the head of the home being to his helpmeet or his help. The chief of staff is, he has been given a lot of responsibility, but the president makes that final call. Right. So that is what I see it as. The head of the home means that you have the last say, you have the responsibility, and when the Lord talks to the family, the first person he speaks to is you. You are the figure for the family, you're the representative, and that is what it's supposed to be.
Wow. Well, while we're on that, the same apostle in the same chapter says that wives, you must submit yourself unto your own husband. Is that ever to be optional or conditional?
Yes.
Or there are conditions to it?
There is condition.
It's in the Bible somewhere?
Let me explain.
Okay, sorry.
So I was listening very attentively, and I don't want to quote Pastor, but Pastor said man and woman have equally fallen from God. Therefore, the probability of a sound decision that stands within the pillars of God's word is below 100%. And our aim and our entire being is to aim for perfection within Christ. So because we're so intellectual, both man and woman, we have the ability to reason and see what falls within the paradigms of the Holy Spirit and the Holy Word. So therefore, submittance should be conditional through Christ. That's
Pastor, you have to help us. This is a philosopher on set here. How do you link the two, the man being the head and the woman being in submission?
The thing is, usually when we hear head, we immediately go to the local parlance and think boss.
Right.
And that is not it. That is definitely not it. In fact, the one who is head is the one who is required to lay down his life for the rest of the family, the one who is required to submit. Let me give a real case scenario so you appreciate it. I read somewhere one time that being head means you are the first to apologize, whether you're wrong or right. Whether you are wrong or right is not the issue. The fact that there has been disharmony into the home, you take responsibility for that.
Right.
You understand? So that is what headship means. It means that I'm going to lead by precept and example. The things that I want to see my family do, I'm going to demonstrate it to them in my life and then require that of them. Right. You understand? I'm not going to tell them, do as I say and not as I do, that kind of thing. So when it comes to the whole thing about submission, well, you said something that I found very interesting. When you ask the young lady if she saw it anywhere in the Bible. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own. No, I could spend a whole month on own, eh?
I hear you.
But we do have a month unto your own husband, eh? Anybody else's husband.
Come on now.
Right? Not your mother's husband, which is the father.
Come on
some
now.
women submit to the father, but they don't take on the husband at all.
Take
right?
it.
Submit yourself unto your own husband, right? Even as unto the Lord. So like I tell people, the time for wives to stop submitting is when you see Jesus going astray. When you see him stop loving. When you see him stop being good to you, that is the time to stop submitting. That is the condition.
Powerful. If I may add as well, the text says, husband, love your wives. Yes. And wives, submit to your husbands. Not wives, submit to man.
Yes.
His husband. He has a position.
That's right.
You decided to get married to him.
That's right.
So you have adopted him or accepted him as a positional person in your life.
That's right.
You didn't have to, but you chose to. Therefore, it's your own husband, not anybody else's husband, as you were intimating, but it's your own husband that you chose.
And Pastor, if you want to define submission, to me it will be surrendering your all or giving your all unto. And if I choose a man to marry, that means other than a contractual agreement, but I am vowing my life to this man, then it shouldn't be difficult for me to surrender my all to him, because this is the person that I've chosen to live with until I die, right? And if God has ordained him or give him the privilege to be the head of my home, then I shouldn't have a problem to submit. So therefore, then it opens the questions to me, then what is the problem with submission?
I think
is it that society or the media has redefined submission to us, that we do not understand what to submit means.
That's right. I think part of the reason is that there's a fear that when I submit, I demean myself. I deprive myself of who I am. Submission has nothing to do with that. Christ himself submitted to us when he became a human being. It's not a matter of his, depriving or stripping himself of who he is. And I think that's the fear if I do that. Karina, you wanted to add something here?
Yes, I just wanted to add something. The media and world society has drastically twisted everything biblical, right? So even submission, we will think to be the weaker one, to be docile, to be empty-headed and can't think for ourselves. However, you could only submit if you're strong, right? Right? Right. So we are all strong. So in the event that you have to submit to your husband, remember I spoke about order, right? You can't have a good relationship, a working love relationship, if it is both of you all want to be the head of the home, both of you all want to have the alpha, you all want to be the alpha, right? So it's your word against mine or else. That will be total disharmony. So in order for you to submit, because you love your husband, is not saying that you would not have an opinion. If you have an opinion and your husband is Christ-centered or following Christ, you all could have a reasonable discussion on it. You could think for yourself also. So we look at submission as bad, but really and truly, it's not a bad word.
You need to go on the road and give these young ladies a microphone and let them preach up and down the place. It is heartening.
Very much so.
In something else, I love the analogy that my friend Karina made about the head. We sing the word head. Let's just look at the human body. The head, the makeup of the head is the most complex and intellectual and just sophisticated being that moves this body with all its intricate details. And in essence, the body is submitted to the instructions given by the head, which contains the brain. And if God says the man is the head of the home, well, I should think that he has equipped in a man the necessaries to make things work the way it should. Hence, we should submit to him. However, like the body, there are some illnesses, there are some exceptions that may cause the head not to transmit the right messages. And in the event you need to take medication, you need to not submit to those false transmittants. But in essence, in where things were made perfect, we were supposed to submit. But in the event that something goes wrong, you must have a backup.
I apologize for inviting you instead.
No, but the idea is that is fine, and that is very logical. But one of the things we had to go theological. One of the things that happens is, even though the body is sick, right? There is a coming together. The body representing us doesn't necessarily fit hand to glove. Because why I say that is, even though the head is sick, I'm talking about the person, the man is ill. The woman who is to submit to the man doesn't say, he's sick, it's my turn now. You understand? Right. Her task under God is to get him back in order.
I hear you.
You understand? As fast as possible so that the headship could continue. That's what we have going on is somebody say, he's sick, boy. Right. You understand? While the cat's away, we will play. Right. And that kind of thing. And that is what has been happening for quite a long time. I just want to touch on the whole question of order. Right. What we have to understand, and we wouldn't have time for me to get into it, but I will continue to read Ephesians 5 and 6. And you would see where God deals with three groups of people. And once he puts you in a subordinate position, he lets you know that I'm putting you in a subordinate position for your benefit.
I hear you.
So the person who has headship over you has to be very careful how they handle you, because God says, even though you are head, remember that you have a head.
Well, there you go. There you go. So if a woman is not prepared to submit based on our redefining of submission, would you advise her to get married? She's saying, if that happened, I gone. I am not staying in that marriage.
I think the readiness for marriage and differentiation and thing comes at a certain point. A person exhibits a certain amount of maturity. If a person is saying these things, I don't think you would have appreciated where you need to be in order to be ready for marriage. So marriage doesn't even factor in if that is the
we have a few minutes again, and I just want to ask this. I'm tempted to ask this because we have dealt so much on some of the characteristics. If a woman now is finding it difficult to find a man, I'm putting in local parlance, to get a husband, what advice would you give to her? You guys are not in that category, I'm sure, but you have a friend who's unable to find a husband. What advice would you give to her?
Fine.
Sure.
That means she's looking.
Well, that's what I say.
Right? I think they should stop looking in the first place, right? And, just lay back, relax, put it in God's hands. Of course, you tell God what you want, you have your criteria and whatever like that. And occupy yourself with other things and stop thinking about it. Most time, if you listen to young ladies in terms of who got married and like that, they said when they weren't looking, that's the time when they actually met their husbands, right? So one should stop looking. When you use the word look, it sounds more like if you're on the prowl.
Somehow.
You're on the hunt, and that in itself is not right? So the woman should not be the one chasing and looking and, that whole thing, but put it in God's hand and wait. Occupy yourself as well, so your mind won't be in it all the time, and wait till the Lord sends that person.
As well as, I would like to say that most of the times when you can't find a man or a man isn't coming to you, it's because you're not ready for one. Or you're not ready for the one to get married to. And in that case, that's God's way of saying, get yourself together. So that is what they need to do. They need to develop themselves and be that virtuous woman that they want.
And then, of course, women think about marriage more than men do. And then they have a certain time frame to wrap things up. But by the way, we have to wrap things up now, But I just felt I needed to ask that. Before we close, what is that one thing you think God expects all men to be or become? What is that one thing? Quick word. What is that one thing you believe God expects of all men, regardless of the race, ethnicity, nationality, whatever it might be? What is that one thing? Keisha, let's start with you. Quickly.
Understand, love, and related to the relationship with Christ.
Very good. Leroy.
Outside of characteristics, I think that God expects all men to work.
First thing he did to man, before he gave him a wife, he gave him work to do. Yes, Giselle.
To be a true leader.
Okay.
Know to lead.
Karina.
To love God and also to love his wife.
Have mercy. Pastor, you want to add to that?
I agree with Karine. I think God wants...
the rest of these folks?
Well, particularly what she would have said. Right? I agree with everything. But I think what God wants for men is that intimacy with him. And I think before Eve even came, that's why God had that time with man. And if he could get every man in a situation like that, I think they would be ready to do quite a bit better than we have done before.
Well, we didn't have all the time in the world to discuss it, but I'm hoping we were able to stimulate you enough for you to find God before you started looking for any mate. Remember, it's not important in finding the right one. It's more important in being the right one. Thank you for joining us as we have you join us again on JC24/7.